My fiancée canceled the wedding by text and sent her lawyer after me, so I took the house and her reputation. First, let me back up a second. My name's Jake Lawson. I'm 34 and I work in urban planning. I'm the kind of guy who always shows up 10 minutes early and still double-checks the stove before leaving the house. Reliable, loyal, and just the right amount of boring to make your parents feel relieved if their daughter brings me home. For 2 years, I thought I was building the rest of my life with Sabrina Holden, my fiancée, and trust me, I was all in. The wedding venue is booked. House mortgage underway. I even canceled a career-changing job in Chicago to stay near her parents. Because that's what love is, right? Sacrifice. Stability. Showing up. But I guess I missed the memo that I was the only one doing the building. I was standing in the checkout line at a grocery store, holding frozen lasagna, scented trash bags, and a bottle of wine I didn't even like, just doing the regular weekend prep for another cozy night with my fiancée. Her name? Sabrina Holden. The woman I thought I'd be spending the rest of my life with. The message popped up while I was debating whether I wanted to splurge on the fancy soap. It read, "Wedding's off. Expect a call from my lawyer." No emojis. No explanation. No emotion. Just a digital guillotine. 1 sentence. 8 words. She ended our engagement like she was canceling a dentist appointment. The cashier had to tell me twice that it was my turn. I paid like a zombie, walked out to the car in silence, and just sat there. Not crying. Not raging. Just, still. Staring at that message and trying to wrap my head around how someone could go from planning a wedding to dropping a legal nuke without even looking you in the eye. I didn't text back right away. I didn't call. I just replied with 3 words. As you wish. And in that moment, something inside me snapped, not with grief, but with clarity. She thought she held all the cards. Thought I'd fall apart, beg her to stay, plead for a second chance. But Sabrina had forgotten something very important. We weren't married yet. That beautiful townhome she picked out outside Seattle? The one she decorated in her Pinterest brain and told her friends was basically hers? Yeah. That mortgage wasn't finalized. And both her names were on the application, but it was still pending. No signatures. No deal. So before I even took off my coat, I opened my laptop, logged into the bank portal, and withdrew my part of the application. 3 clicks. That's all it took to implode her fantasy house. Now I know what you're probably thinking. Damn, dude, that's cold. Petty even. But after 2 years of sacrifices, including turning down a job offer in Chicago to stay close to her family, this wasn't about revenge. It was about self-respect. Still, I didn't expect what happened next. 2 days later, I was on my couch, halfway through microwaved lasagna and an old rerun of The Office when my phone rang. Unknown number. Straight to voicemail. Then the message came. "Hello, this is Amanda Weiss, attorney for Miss Sabrina Holden. We urgently request a callback regarding your mortgage withdrawal, as this action may constitute a breach of contract or financial interference. Please contact us immediately." I almost choked on my food. Suddenly, Miss Cold Goodbye had her lawyer panicking. "Not so composed anymore, huh?" I didn't respond. Not to Amanda. Not to Sabrina. Not to anyone. Because while they were scrambling, I was calculating. Sabrina didn't just walk away. She tried to erase me like I was some failed investment. But she didn't realize I'd already stopped being her project. And I was just getting started. The thing about getting blindsided is it doesn't just mess with your emotions, it hijacks your sense of logic. The day after Sabrina's lawyer left that voicemail, I woke up still trying to figure out what the hell had happened. We had booked a florist 2 days before. The night before the text, she sent me a picture of a cake she liked. She even joked about getting a mini one just for the dog. And then, boom. Nuclear. Something didn't add up. So I started digging. First, I went through our shared Google Drive, the one we used for wedding planning. Documents were missing. The guest list? Gone. The menu ideas? Deleted. The dress folder she obsessively updated with screenshots? Wiped clean. But the most interesting deletion? The prenup draft. Yeah, we had one in the works. At her insistence. Her family pushed for it hard. They came from money, not Bezos level, but enough old wealth and law firm connections to make sure everything was done properly. Her dad had it drawn up. Pages of clauses, expectations, and traps wrapped in legalese. At the time, I didn't argue. It was early, I was naive, and honestly, I just wanted peace. If a prenup was what made her family feel better, fine. Except now, it was nowhere to be found. That same day, I got a call from a blocked number. This time I answered. "Jake," came Sabrina's voice. I didn't say anything. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this," she said quickly. I panicked. Things got complicated. Complicated? I repeated. "I can't talk about it over the phone," she whispered. "But I need to see you. Please." I hesitated. "Is your lawyer on board with this?" Silence. Then, "Jake, please." Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met in the middle of a park. Not our usual coffee shop. Not her favorite brunch spot. A neutral place where no one could eavesdrop. She showed up looking like she hadn't slept. Pale, messy bun, oversized hoodie. The same hoodie I'd left at her place weeks ago. She sat down next to me on a bench like it was still her right. I didn't want to hurt you, she started. That wasn't the plan. There was a plan? She sighed. It's not what you think. Then what is it? I asked, arms crossed. I got scared. My dad started pressuring me to pull out of the marriage. He didn't like how involved you were with the finances. He said it looked like you were positioning yourself. I blinked. Positioning? Like angling for a stake in the family assets, she muttered. Which is ridiculous, I know. But when he saw your name on the mortgage app, he flipped. I laughed. So your dad thought I was gold digging by co-signing the mortgage for the house you picked? She didn't meet my eyes. I should have said no. But he threatened to cut me off. And that's worth more than us? I didn't think it would snowball like this, she whispered. I leaned back. You know what's wild? You broke off an engagement over a house you weren't even paying for. Tears welled in her eyes. But I'd seen better performances. I wasn't buying it. Then came the kicker. I tried to tell him to stop, she said. But he's been trying to push through a lawsuit. He wants to claim you manipulated me into joint assets. My jaw clenched. So he's making me the villain to protect your inheritance? She nodded. That prenup, I asked. The one your dad had drafted? I deleted it, she admitted. It was poison. It wasn't even about us. I stood up. Jake, wait, she said. I miss you. I didn't want this. You didn't want to fight him either, I replied. And now you want me to clean up the pieces while he sends lawyers after me? She stood too. Please. If we talk to him together. No, I said. You let him weaponize you. I'm not playing peacekeeper between you and a man who sees me as a parasite. I turned and walked away. She didn't follow. That night, I forwarded all communication from her lawyer to mine. I also called the mortgage officer and explained that I believed the other applicant may have filed under false pretenses and failed to disclose legal conflicts. They froze the file. I posted a simple update to my private Instagram story, nothing dramatic. Just a photo of a canceled wedding RSVP next to a burning prenup draft. No caption. But it was enough. 3 hours later, I got a DM. From someone I didn't recognize. You don't know me. But you need to see something. Sabrina's not telling you everything. Attached? Screenshots. Of her. With someone else. While we were still engaged. I stared at the screenshots like they were photos from a crime scene. It wasn't just one picture. It was a collection, some blurry, some too clear. A couple of them looked like they were snapped through tinted glass, others straight from the front seat of a car. But the subject was the same in all of them. Sabrina. Laughing. Leaning in. Kissing a man I'd never seen before. At first, I thought maybe they were old, maybe from before we got together. But the timestamps? Clear as day. One of them was from the exact day we were supposed to pick up our wedding rings. She wasn't at a dress fitting. She was in a hotel lobby making out with some guy in business casual and aviator sunglasses. And you know the wildest part? He looked familiar. I scrolled through the rest of the message. The sender hadn't just sent pictures. They sent a name. Ryan Whitaker. The same Ryan who once sat across from me at a family dinner laughing at Sabrina's terrible cooking and bragging about his real estate flips. The same Ryan who I later found out was her mom's godson. I called the number attached to the message. It rang twice before someone picked up. Jake, a woman's voice asked. Yeah. Who is this? My name's Taylor. I used to date Ryan. Until I figured out he wasn't just cheating on me. He was being paraded around by Sabrina like some hidden trophy. I found your info through an old mutual contact and I figured you deserved to know. I stepped outside. The air hit me like a slap. How long? I asked. At least 6 months. Maybe longer, Taylor said. I confronted him. He told me you two were on the rocks. That Sabrina was just tying up loose ends before she made the switch. The switch? Like I was some used-up car being traded in for a shinier model. Thank you, I said. Really? That took guts. I figured if someone did this to me, I'd want to know, she said. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I hung up. But I didn't explode. I didn't scream. Instead, I opened my laptop and started writing. Not an email. Not a text. But a document. A full, detailed, timestamped narrative of everything I'd learned. From the mortgage fraud to the manipulation by her father to the affair with Ryan. With screenshots. With dates. With receipts. Then I sent it not to Sabrina, but to her lawyer. Attached as one sentence. Your client may want to reconsider her position before we proceed. The response came 2 hours later. Miss Holden has decided to drop all legal claims. She wishes to resolve all matters privately and amicably. No apology. No explanation. Just retreat. But I wasn't done. Later that week, I got a call from my old contact in Chicago, the firm that had offered me a job before I turned it down to stay with Sabrina. Is the spot still open? I asked. They paused. Funny timing. We just lost someone. You'd be perfect. I accepted on the spot. By the weekend, I had sold my half of the storage unit Sabrina and I had rented for the wedding decor. I donated the expensive tux I'd custom fitted. I listed our would-be honeymoon Airbnb under my name and filled the date with a road trip. With Taylor. Yeah. The same woman who blew the whistle. Turns out betrayal creates strange alliances. She wasn't a rebound, we both knew that, but we needed an escape. Some clarity. A way to remind ourselves that the world didn't end at the edge of someone else's selfishness. So we drove. No expectations. Just playlists, bad roadside diners, and long talks that somehow made sense. Somewhere in the middle of Utah, we parked beneath the stars. She turned to me and asked, "What are you gonna do when you get to Chicago?" I looked up, thought about it. Built something no one can take away from me again. She smiled. Good answer. And just like that, the mess of my almost marriage turned into the blueprint for the rest of my life. We returned from the road trip with sunburns, playlists full of inside jokes, and something even we didn't have a name for yet. It wasn't love, not yet. It wasn't even a rebound. It was understanding. Mutual healing. Two broken engines that managed to idle next to each other without overheating. Taylor headed back to Portland. I went home just for a few weeks to finalize the move to Chicago. I didn't tell many people. Didn't need the gossip mill revving up about Sabrina's ex-fiancé skipping town. But apparently, someone beat me to it. 3 days before my flight, I got an email from Sabrina. Subject line, closure? No, hi. No, how are you? Just, I heard you're leaving. I know I don't deserve anything from you, but I'd really like a chance to talk. In person. No drama. No lawyers. My first instinct was to delete it. But curiosity is a funny thing. Like poking a bruise to see if it still hurts. So I said yes. We met at a public coffee shop, the kind with uncomfortable chairs and aggressive indie music that made it hard to cry, which was probably for the best. She looked different. Not messy, not glamorous. Just small. Tired. The kind of tired that doesn't come from a lack of sleep, but from a life that finally caught up with its own BS. I know I don't have a right to ask, she said, gripping her mug like it was a life preserver, but I need to say it out loud. Say what? I asked. That I'm sorry. She looked up. Her eyes rimmed red, but not the performative kind I'd seen during our last meltdown. You didn't deserve any of it. Not the breakup. Not the lawyer threats. And definitely not Ryan. I stayed silent. I was scared, she continued. My dad got in my head. He made me believe I was one misstep from being cut off. And I panicked. I thought I could just rearrange things. Quietly. Cleanly. You tried to erase me, I said flatly. I know, she whispered. She took something out of her bag and slid it across the table. A check. For your share of the wedding expenses, she said. Every penny. I sold the dress. Returned the deposits. Even got the florist to give me credit. I didn't touch it. I'm not trying to buy forgiveness, she added. I can't carry the guilt if I don't try to make some kind of amends. I finally looked her in the eyes. You're too late, Sabrina. That version of me, the one who was planning a future with you? He doesn't exist anymore. She nodded slowly. I figured. We sat there for a moment. No rage. No revenge. Just a quiet, heavy space where something used to live. Are you happy? She asked. I smiled just slightly. I'm building something better. She nodded again. Got up. Walked out without asking for a hug. Or another chance. That was the real ending. 2 days later, I boarded the plane to Chicago with 2 bags, a signed offer letter, and 0 regrets. The apartment I moved into was small but had huge windows. The first thing I did was build a desk from scratch and set it under the biggest one. The second thing I did was text Taylor a picture of the view. Her reply came fast. Looks like the next chapter. And that's exactly what it felt like. I threw myself into work. New team. New city. A new version of me. No shadows. No pity looks. No small town whispers about what happened to the guy who got dumped by text. Then one night, 2 months in, I got a package. No return address. Inside was a journal. Leather-bound. Old. Used. Full. First page? Taylor's handwriting. Thought you might want to know the whole story. No games. No secrets. I read it over 2 nights. It detailed everything, her relationship with Ryan, how she suspected something was off long before she met me, how she pieced it together, how angry she'd been. And how she'd almost stayed silent until she saw me on Sabrina's Instagram smiling in a picture titled Forever Starts Now. She wrote, I saw your face and thought he doesn't know. He has no idea. And I couldn't let that sit on my chest. The final entry simply said, I don't know what this is between us, Jake, but I hope we get to find out. I hope you choose to. I sat there for a long time staring out the window, the journal heavy in my lap. Then I picked up my phone. Hey, I texted. I read it. All of it. Her reply. Still want to build something no one can take away? I didn't even hesitate. Yeah. With you. Starting over sounds poetic when it's a bumper sticker. In reality? It's awkward. Beautiful, but awkward. Like learning to walk after your legs have been broken. Taylor visited Chicago a few weeks after that journal exchange. No dramatic reunions, no movie score swelling in the background. She just showed up at my door in a black hoodie, holding coffee and wearing that lopsided smirk I now knew meant she was nervous but pretending not to be. Hi, she said. Hey, I said. And that was it. No need for long explanations. We'd both lived enough truth to earn silence. We spent that weekend like 2 people cautiously circling something fragile. No declarations. No expectations. Just space. Mutual curiosity. Respect. We walked the lakefront, went to a tiny jazz bar, ate overpriced tacos at 2 a.m. On Sunday night, she looked at me across my kitchen counter and said, "I don't know where this goes, but I like how it feels not being lied to." Me too. But peace, as I've learned, always invites interruption. One evening I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to. "Jake Lawson," the voice asked. "Speaking. This is Detective Myers with Seattle PD. I'm reaching out regarding a civil complaint filed involving fraudulent documentation submitted to a financial institution during a joint mortgage application. Your name was flagged as a former co-applicant." My stomach dropped. Sabrina. Apparently, her father had attempted to push through the mortgage using falsified co-signature documentation in my name after I'd withdrawn. It was discovered during a routine audit. My signature had been forged. "You're not under investigation," the detective clarified. "But you're listed as a witness. We may need a statement." I agreed. When I hung up, I just laughed. Loud, borderline hysterical. Because of course, the woman who dumped me by text, cheated with a family friend, and tried to legally eviscerate me would end up entangled in mortgage fraud via her own father. When I told Taylor, she didn't even blink. "You should testify," she said. "If you don't speak up, someone else might get screwed next." "I will." And I did. I gave a clear, unemotional statement. Sent the email and closed the laptop. No need to follow the case. I was done playing referee in other people's disasters. A few days later, Taylor sent me a message. "Want to see something cool?" It was a link to a listing, a small fixer-upper on the edge of Lincoln Square. 2 bedrooms. Wood floors. Terrible paint. "I think we could make this into something real," she said. I looked at the photos. At the cracked tiles. The overgrown yard. The weird corner where someone had clearly tried and failed to install a bar. And I grinned. I'm in. So we bought it. Not as a symbol. Not to prove anything. But because we wanted to build something with our own hands from scratch where no ghosts lived. We spent weekends pulling out nails, repainting ceilings, and laughing at how neither of us knew anything about plumbing. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't curated. It was honest. One night, covered in paint, we sat on the front steps drinking beer from mason jars. Taylor nudged me. "You think they'd believe this if we told them? Your ex-fiancé's lawyer threatening you one month and us picking cabinet colors the next." I chuckled. "Only if we told it on Reddit. There's something wild about standing in a house you own even if the walls are still half-primed and the floors creak like a haunted saloon. Every morning I woke up with paint in my hair, plaster dust in my lungs, and this insane, quiet gratitude that I didn't end up living in that cold Pinterest palace Sabrina wanted. This place was messy. Lived in. Real. It smelled like sawdust and coffee and Taylor's awful vanilla protein shakes. I wouldn't trade it for anything. The best part? We were still figuring it all out. We didn't rush into titles. No dramatic declarations. No Instagram posts. Just 2 people doing life side by side. She had a drawer at my place. I had a toothbrush at hers. And now we had a house. It was progress. The kind built slowly, on purpose. Around that time I got an unexpected message. From Sabrina's mom. Yep. Out of nowhere. It was short. Civil, apologetic even. "I heard what happened. I'm truly sorry for the role our family played in all of this. I hope you're doing well. You deserve better." I didn't respond. Not because I was angry. I just didn't have anything left to say. Forgiveness isn't always about telling the person they're forgiven. Sometimes it's just moving on so hard they can't catch up. Meanwhile, Taylor's job offered her a remote promotion, meaning she could officially move in. We decided to celebrate with the most chaotic housewarming party imaginable. 10 friends, 1 grill, 0 furniture. People sat on upside-down buckets and the arm of the only couch we owned. We drank out of mason jars and played board games by lantern light because the overhead wiring wasn't finished. It was the best party I'd ever been to. In the middle of it, I stepped outside for air. Looked up at our sad little porch light and the stars behind it. Taylor came up behind me, resting her chin on my shoulder. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "I think I'm finally okay." And I meant it. Because even with dust in the air and unfinished paint on the walls, this life felt whole. Honest. Like every wrong turn had somehow steered me right here. Not long after, my story, the one about Sabrina, the lawyer, and the last-minute cancellation made its way to an online forum. I didn't post it. Someone else did. Probably a friend from that insane party. But it went viral. People asked me if it was true. If I really shut down the mortgage, iced the lawyer, and found love with the woman who outed the affair. I just smiled. Because I didn't need to prove it. I was living it. You'd think after everything, the canceled wedding, the lawyer threats, the infidelity, the fraud, the story would taper off quietly. Neatly. But no. Because life doesn't hand out clean endings. It throws curveballs when you think you're safe. It happened on a Wednesday. I was in the backyard fixing a busted hinge on the garden gate, earbuds in, soaked in sweat. Taylor was inside making some weird turmeric soup she swore was gut magic. Then I heard her scream. Not a little yelp. A full-body, adrenaline-fueled scream that made me drop my drill and sprint inside so fast I nearly ate pavement. I burst into the kitchen, heart hammering, and found her standing frozen, white-faced, holding her phone. What? I barked. What happened? She turned the screen toward me. Sabrina. Pregnant. Instagram post. Caption, miracles come in strange ways. Choosing a new beginning, no matter the past. Hashtag blessed, hashtag second chances. The man next to her? Ryan Whitaker. My hands curled into fists. Not from jealousy. From disbelief. It was like watching a car accident in slow motion. Taylor said nothing. Just put the phone down. We stood in silence. And then she burst out laughing. Of course, she said between hysterics. Of course she'd turned the whole mess into a sympathy comeback. And she was right. The comment section? A mess. Half congrats from her oblivious friends, half bloodbath from people who knew the story. Screenshots of her lawyer threats, excerpts from the viral Reddit post, and even someone linking the Seattle fraud investigation. It wasn't just a baby announcement. It was digital karma. I didn't comment. Didn't like it. Didn't report it. I just shut off my phone and walked outside. Later that night, Taylor sat next to me on the steps. We drank quietly, watching our crooked string lights flicker against the night. She's still out there, I said. Still spinning stories. She can spin all she wants, Taylor replied. We're the only ones living the truth. And she was right. Because here's the thing no one tells you. Sometimes the people who betray you don't crash and burn. Sometimes they keep spinning, reinventing, making you a villain in their memoir. But the point of healing isn't proving them wrong. It's knowing you don't need to. 6 months later, Taylor and I opened our side business, custom reclaimed furniture, built right in our backyard shop. We called it Second Grain. It wasn't flashy, but people loved the story. Loved the message. We took broken things and made them better. Exactly what we did with our lives. One night, after wrapping up an order, she kissed me on the forehead and whispered, "You really okay?" And for the first time, I didn't even hesitate. Yeah, I'm not just okay. I'm free. Because revenge fades. But peace? Peace sticks. If someone tried to erase you with a text, would you fight for the truth or just walk away and build something better? Hope you enjoyed this story as much as I do. Help this small channel grow by hitting that like button, subscribing, and sharing with your friends. Every bit of support means the world. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.